call to order. We all rise, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, let me begin with a roll call here. Marcus Major is actually here. Jaden Bailey.
Here.
Alan Stewart.
Here.
Jeff Spink.
Here.
Doug Tysted.
Here.
Robert Owens.
Here.
Steve Skeet.
Here.
Wolf Schmidt.
Here.
And Stephen Rosenthal.
Here.
All right. Attendance no, we have 9. And attendance 9 of 10. All right. Everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
So move. Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stewart.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Will Schmidt.
Yes.
Stephen Rosenthal.
Yes.
All right, let the record show 9. Secretary's report.
Commissioners, before you, we have no consent agenda items, but we do have 2 final plats and 4 rezoning cases on your regular agenda. But in front of you, we have placed a letter from Rural Water District 6, and that's for the Highland Meadows final plat, and then also a neighbor letter for the rezoning. I just wanted to make you aware that those are placed in front of your seats, so if you have any questions about those, obviously during that hearing. Otherwise, no other big steps. Oh, I apologize. Actually, this is Josh. He is our new development planner here at the county. So he will eventually start presenting and moving cases as well. So I just wanted to make you aware. Josh, did you have anything else you'd like to add?
Excited to be here.
Welcome, Josh. Welcome, Josh. Hi, Josh.
Welcome back, Amy.
Yeah, I was going to say, hey, Amy, welcome back.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Short reprieve, but I'm glad to be back.
And the little boy is healthy, fine, and already running, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you. Do I have any declarations tonight? None. All right. Brings us to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So move.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stewart.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Will Schmidt.
Yes.
Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
9. All right, thank you. Okay, brings us to our first regular agenda, which is case DEV 23-120, final plat for Highland Meadows. Let me go to my... The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV-23-145, final plat for Garden Villa, as outlined, my bad, for final plat for Highland Meadows as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing. Planning staff report.
As mentioned, this is case DEV 23-120. It is a final plat for a 35-lot subdivision with 1 tract that will be non-developable. This is a final plat, like stated, so the preliminary plat has already been reviewed by this body and approved, with exceptions from Article 50, Section 40. The plat has been prepared in compliance with our regulations, so staff recommendation is approval with the conditions as supplied in your staff report. So if you have any further questions, please let us know.
Does the applicant wish to speak? Okay. I thought I saw you back there. I just couldn't tell. You're not sitting in your normal seat. And I think you gave it up to Tom Young. Yeah, you lost your seat. Tom took it. All right. Is there any additional information to be presented? Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from members of the commission?
Cut and dry.
I had one question on the drainage and water runoff. Have the engineering studies been completed, or do they have to be completed before they will issue building?
Engineering studies have been completed, and yes, they do have to be completed and accepted by public works staff prior to the issuance of building permits. But yeah, they've been
Thank you.
addressed.
Good. Okay. Well, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve or deny the final plot of case DEV 23-120, final plat for Highland Meadows as outlined in the posted agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve case number DEV-23-120 as presented by staff and as recommended by staff.
Thank you, Alan. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Doug, thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stewart.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tysted.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt.
Yes.
And Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried 8-0. At this time there's a motion to approve the actual plat, as you have it written here too, right? So not only are we approving the final plat, but we're also approving the plat.
Yeah, the final plat is the plat. Yep.
Okay.
Final is final.
Okay. So we don't need to go further than that, based on what you've got written here. Then, okay. So the Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than December the 27th, 2023, at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. All right. Thank you. Brings us to the second item. Agenda item 8 Bravo. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now hear case DEV 23-145, final plat for Garden Villa as outlined in the posted agenda. This is not a public hearing item. Planning staff report.
Case DEV 23-145 is the final plat for Garden Villas. Again, this body has already reviewed the preliminary plat and approved it with, I believe, 3 exceptions that were outlined in your staff report. So those have already been approved. The plat is for a 42-lot subdivision west of the city of Tonganoxie. Staff has reviewed it and found that it is compliant with the subdivision regulations. We do recommend approval with the proposed conditions that were included in your staff report. So if you have any further questions, please let us know.
Wasn't there discussion about a road?
Yeah, this is the one where we approved the exception not to have the cross
Yeah.
street.
Yeah, there was a cross.
Does the applicant wish to speak?
No, thank you.
Any additional information need to be presented? John?
Now, again, every exception was granted at the preliminary plat stage, so it moved on to this stage. So
Okay. Thank you.
it's compliant with those exceptions.
Questions, comments, concerns from the members of the council,
I
commission?
thought there was discussion about a crossroad being put in
Yeah,
on that.
we approved the exception.
Was
Yeah,
that not part of the exception to having that road added or not?
No,
No.
the exception to the requirement of the road being placed was granted at the preliminary stage.
Okay.
So there were discussions, but an exception was given to that portion of the regulations.
Yeah, that was the big discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the big discussion. And then
And then
the
I just thought it
commission
was gonna
voted in favor of approving it as it's written.
Right.
It's a good point.
Chairman, I move that we approve DEV 23-145 for Garden Villa with the exceptions noted.
Very good.
Your second? Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Wolf. Okay. Okay, so I have a motion to approve as it's written. Do I have any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey,
Yes.
Alan Stewart,
Yes.
Jeff Spink,
Yes.
Doug Tysted,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Steve Skeet,
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt,
Yes.
and Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
The motion is carried 8-0. The Board of County Commissions will consider this item no earlier than December the 27th, 2023 at 9 a.m. in the Leavenworth County Courthouse. Brings us to the third item. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 23-140, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5 as outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Staff report?
Before you is a request to rezone the property shown there, so 25476 187th Street and 25341 183rd Street from RR5 to RR2.5. This piece of land is actually 8 lots as part of the Blazer Farms subdivision. It's already been platted. However, it was developed at the 5-acre standard. The applicant, who still owns all of the lots, would like to come back in and rezone it. They do not have any plans, in the near future to redevelop it, but they would like the opportunity, if they so choose, to come back in and replat it at the 2.5 zoning district. Staff has reviewed this application in compliance with the golden factors that you have to consider as part of a rezone. Based off of our review, we have found that all the factors have been met, so therefore staff is recommending approval. I also want to note that 7th factor is conformance to the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan has identified this area as RR 2.5 or residential 2.5 acre zone, so it is compliant. So if you have any other questions, let us know.
All right, thank you. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item, upon recognition, will give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. I repeat, the public comments are limited to 3 minutes. I know you've got your little timer there. So at the end of 3 minutes, the bell will go off. We're no longer listening. Don't make me the bad guy. I'm a nice guy. I'll ask you nicely to please wrap it up so that way we can move on. Okay. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Would the applicant please come forward? I knew we'd get you up here sometime tonight.
Took a little bit. Good evening. Joe Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th. Real quick, Amy, we cannot hear you in back. I don't know if your mic's not on or not. This plat is solely for estate planning. It is platted in 5-acre zoning. They just want the opportunity to have RR 2.5 to match the comprehensive plan. For those that were on the commission last year, we did a similar case on Whiskey Ridge subdivision. There are no plans to replat this, nothing in the future to do anything other than to have it in place, to have the opportunity when time comes for their, family and their estate.
So just putting it on record and having it documented that it can be at 2.5, although it's already plotted at 5.
Right, to match
Okay.
the comprehensive plan.
Yeah. So it's a request. It's a rezoning request tonight.
Yes,
Okay.
that is all it is.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from those individuals present requesting to speak in favor of the request. In favor of the request. Okay. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Opposition of the request. Any additional information to be presented? Sir, were you coming up to speak in opposition? Okay, all right, sorry. Please state your name and your address.
My name's Charles Gray. My address is 25192 187th Street in Leavenworth. You know, our property all resides on the south side of this, proposed subdivision. I currently farm there, as a living. Along this side where you want to put 2.5 acres, if you're doing 2.5 acres, eventually you're going to put houses in there. I got my hog lots sit right along there. I want to try to maintain my livelihood. Potentially at some point this is going to conflict with that. And that's my issue with this. Posting. I talked to John a little bit earlier. This is supposed to be posted. It was posted back on 183rd Street. There's 2 addresses listed on this. There should have been a post also over on 187th Street because there's 2 addresses listed on this split. So, when we want to follow rules or whatever, those things ought to be, looked at, the details. And that's my concern as, everything approaches out, in our area, they impact my livelihood. So, and basically I know it may make a difference, speaking, but a lot of times, basically the county's looking to build more houses to get more revenue, and so those things probably, my input probably won't make a difference, but, I don't know how many of you folks are impacted by your neighbors, with your livelihood. So, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Gray. Those are good points, by the way. Mr. Gray, you're the resident on the south end there, right up against.
On the south side, my whole property borders the south border.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other individuals present wishing to speak in opposition to this request? Any other additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Okay, the public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of the Planning and Zoning. Are there questions, comments from the members of the commission? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, my only question, I have to go back to Mr. Gray, is I'm not certain I understood the objection. I mean, you've got how will this affect your ability to raise your livestock?
Mostly,
Come on up here, Mr. Gray. Come on. Come on up here, Will.
The biggest thing is potentially odors. You have that with what you do. I raise, hogs, and sheep and horses. So the wind blows out of the south an awful lot, and so that means that is going to impact that. So somewhere in the future, if you put a bunch of houses there, someone that moves out of the city, they want to get out and see something pretty, but they don't want to have the smells of agriculture. they're going to have a complaint at some point in time. Also, we have a good fence between us and the Blazer property, but that doesn't mean that something isn't going to happen that our animals don't get out. And so if my pigs happen to get out into someone's $400,000 house with a yard, that may impact me.
So your concern is more for the people that may be moving in than
Yes.
than for your profitability or ability to run your operation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that because
Sure.
I wasn't certain where you were coming from.
Right.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank
So
you.
you're
Thank
making
you,
it
Mr.
known, you're making it known almost like a realtor, letting it know that there's a hog farm right there next to where you're wanting to build your $500,000 house on a 2.5 acre lot.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And your Pleasant Meadow may be, your pleasant country living may be impacted.
It
But
could be.
I think your other point is you're going on record here, letting all of us know now, if this is done, that we're not saying you're going to have to stop doing hog farming.
Exactly.
That's the other piece that you're actually trying to
Exactly.
document, right?
Because that is my livelihood.
That's your livelihood.
I've
So-
done it for, close to 40 years on my
Right.
own. I've been in this property, resided at the address
Yeah.
for, over 19 years. And,
Well, that's not the direction of this commission, Mr. Gray. We're not,
Well, I'd have
that is not our call.
got one thing to say, Mr. Gray. The majority of these people that are moving into that area, they want that country feeling. That's why they're moving there.
Well,
So
the
they'll fit
feeling
right in
is
with
one thing,
the
but
smells that you're getting
but the odor-
and the animal life, because that is the country. So
Yeah.
they should be aware that when you move into a 2.5 acre tract next to a farm, this is what you're going to experience every morning. So I totally understand your feelings at this.
Well, and I understand your concerns that they move in and then want to try to shut your operation down because they don't
Right.
like the smell. I mean, I got it. I just wanted to make certain that
And
That will
also-
never, that won't happen. This is an agricultural county.
No, I understand
That
that.
rules, and they can complain all they want, but when they move out in the county, they have to expect that. And the agricultural rules in Leavenworth County, so.
No, I understand that. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to make certain that I understood the complaint.
One thing
You
about
know,
life,
as
most
I-
things are not certain also. I understand that, and that's the reason I'm voicing my opinion. The other thing that I could have potentially is that someone could be on the other side of the property and cause harm to my animals. I've had this happen
right.
prior. And so as you put more people out close there, you may have that impact also, and sometimes there's no recourse in the damages that they may do to your property, which I found out at that point in
If they
time.
do, call the sheriff,
I did call the sheriff.
yeah.
Didn't
Well,
make any difference.
it's on record now, Mr. Gray, and I appreciate
Yeah.
you doing that. I mean, that's good. I really appreciate you coming up tonight and making that point. That's what I pulled out of it is at least you're coming forward now. You're all about, and I appreciate you stating that up front. You're all about, this county's growing. You know that we're going to have more rooftops. You know that landowners, it's their land, they can do whatever they want to with it.
Yeah.
We got it. But at the same time, you're basically letting us all know and putting on record, hey, I do raise hogs, I do have agriculture, I'm going to continue doing that.
Yeah.
And like Commissioner Mr. Rosenthal said, this is not the job of this board and we're not going to do that.
Right.
And it is on record. So,
right.
thanks, Mr. Gray.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments from the commission?
There was multiple references to supply of water, hydrants, concerns there, especially from a fire chief. Just for the public's knowledge, I mean, that's nothing that would be addressed in any sort of rezone. That's more in any
Jay,
planning.
do me a favor. Speak to that and start over because what you're saying is very important.
Yeah, there are multiple references to water supply, the concern about potential of hydrants being able to supply something if it was developed, which is, I think, a valid concern and something to be thought about, especially with development. And I'm glad that it's in there, but I wanted just to bring it up because that's nothing that would be addressed in a rezone. That's something that's more in the platting process, but I at least kind of wanted to to mention that so that there's no thought of, that we were just kind of skimming over that.
Right, that we're not just hand waving.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Bailey. Any other questions, comments? These are good points we're bringing up. Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion on this request. The Leavenworth County Planning and Commission will consider the case DEV 23-140, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR25, as outlined in the posted agenda. The motion would be to approve a rezoning or to deny the rezoning.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case number DEV-23-140 as presented by staff in consideration of the golden factors.
I second the motion.
Doug, thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey,
Yes.
Alan Stewart,
Yes.
Jeff Spink,
Yes.
Doug Tysted,
Yes.
Robert Owens,
Yes.
Steve Skeet,
Yes.
Will Schmidt,
Yes.
and Stephen Rosenthal.
Yes.
Vote carries 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than January the 3rd, 2024 meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Brings us to our fourth agenda. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 23-141, a rezoning request from RR5 to RR2.5, as outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comments limited to 3 minutes per person. Planning staff or staff report?
Case number DEV 23-141 is a request to rezone from RR5 to RR2.5. The property in question is 25680 Tonganoxie Drive, Leavenworth, Kansas. The property, as you probably noted on the zoning map, is actually two different zoning designations. The eastern half is designated as RR2.5, and the western half is designated, or a third is RR5. Now, staff, we typically do not like to see a lot that has a split zoning like this. So this request would be prudent to make the entire property one zoning district. If you refer to the future land use map, you will see that this entire property is designated as residential 3 units per acre. There is no sanitary sewer out in this area, so developing at that high of a density does not make sense at this time. So coming in with a request for RR2.5 would be prudent due to the lack of sanitary sewer. Staff did review all of the 7 factors that you must consider to approve a rezoning, and we have found that all those factors have been met. So if you have any further questions, but staff's recommendation is for approval.
Wait, what's your staff recommendation again?
Approval.
Okay. Thank you. Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition, please give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since this is a public hearing. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Joe Herring, Herring Surveying, 315 North 5th Street. Staff handled this very well. I just want to bring all the property into 2.5 acres for estate planning for the future. You can tell the property has a little bit of a dog leg to the left with a little bit of road frontage.
Can you, hang on a second, Joe. Can you go back to the view that we can see? Yeah. Is there another view that you've got? There we go. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Yes, this concept plan was just given at the request from staff. They wanted to see what was potentially could happen, but this would only happen in the case that the intersection is realigned along Tongi Road, which has been applied for by Public Works. That's a whole nother story. Wasn't granted, but just want to get the zoning in place for the estate planning for when and if that ever does happen. So that is it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, we will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of the request. Those wishing to speak in favor of the request. We'll now hear for those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Any other additional information? John, anything? Okay. All right. All right. Public comment portion of this hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Are there questions or comments from members of the commission? Okay. I'll entertain a motion on this request. Case DEV 23-141, a rezoning request from RR5 and RR 2.5 to RR 2.5 as outlined in the posted agenda. I said it right that time, didn't I? Thank you. That's a tongue tire.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case number DEV-23-141, rezoning request as presented by staff and for the reasons given by staff.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion on the floor? All right, I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey.
Yes.
Alan Stewart.
Yes.
Jeff Spink.
Yes.
Doug Tystead.
Yes.
Robert Owens.
Yes.
Steve Skeet.
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt.
Yes.
Steve Rosenthal.
Yes.
All right. Vote carries 8-0. The motion is carried by a vote 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than January the 3rd, 2024 meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Brings us to our fifth item for the night. The Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 23-142, a rezoning request from RR5 to R1, as outlined in the posted agenda. This requires a public hearing. Public comments limited to 3 minutes per person. Planning staff report.
As mentioned, this is a request to rezone the properties listed before you, so 000 Gilman Road, from RR5 to R1, 43,000 square feet, which is 1 acre zoning is what that zoning district is. The property in question is actually 2 parcels, as shown in that map. It's currently zoned R5. The future land use map has this area designated as residential 3 units per acre. Again, there is no sanitary sewer or public sanitary sewer that comes to this site, so meeting that density is not feasible at this time. However, at the 1 acre density, you can begin to have septic systems, so the 1 acre zoning would be supported per our sanitary code. Staff also did review this based off of the 7 factors you must consider. Based off of our analysis, we have found that the request does meet, and it specifically does meet the future land use map because it is less dense than the proposed use. So if you have any other questions, please let us know. Staff's recommendation is for approval.
Thank you. Upon opening this public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak, either for or against this item upon recognition, please come, present your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since the public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Joe Herring, 16630 Gilman Road. I'm here as the applicant owner of this property and project, along with a partner. Staff presented it very well. The only thing wasn't mentioned, there is R1 or R143 zoning directly east of it. Actually, where I live is zoned R1, and the subdivision to the southeast that is 1 acres, about 80 lots, I believe, 80 or 85 lots, along with some 1 acre lots to the north. The very tip of that drawing up there, there's some 1 acre lots. So the concept plan that was given is exactly what I gave to my neighbors when I went door to door, showing them that I am not putting in a 100 lot, 120 lot development, that we are just going to develop a few lots off the road frontage, save the rest for farm ground for as long as I possibly can. I did meet with the water district at their board meeting in December. We discussed this project. The water tower is adjacent to this property with a 6-inch and an 8-inch main. They had zero concerns expressed to me about being able to provide water. And there are existing 2 hydrants, fire hydrants, on or adjacent to the property already. So, here for any questions.
So as I understand, you want to rezone the whole area as a R1/43, but you're only going to develop 12 to 13 acres of it.
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason for that is to use the land as the county has it for the comp plan and what our sanitary codes allow, and keep the majority of it as farm ground, as much of it as possible in this case.
Okay. And my question now goes to you, John, is can he is there some way that we can do this other than making the whole area R1?
Well, in my estimation, as Amy had said before, we try to refrain from having tracts that have multiple zoning designations in them.
Okay.
After platting, that could be a consideration, but as it is today, we would support it based on the future land use plan.
Okay.
So if he were to subdivide this property, he could absolutely zone it to something else after that platting process or that subdivision process.
Okay. Thank you. That answered my question.
And my question is Mr. Herring, you pretty much have went in this with a partner to protect your own property, basically, for any future land use right next to you. Because I'm speculating that 90 acres that'll remain 90 acres until you're well gone.
That's well put, yes. That is pretty much protecting my backdoor view.
Yes, that's
ironic as it is. I don't want a development right behind my back door. So
I think that's a sentiment that's been echoed pretty loudly in these halls.
Well, and I've said this before, if you don't want a neighbor, then you need to buy that piece of property, which is exactly what you did.
And thank you to my partner who helped me invest and do that. So
yeah,
in case he's watching.
I understand completely. So
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chip. Thanks. We'll now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Any additional information to be presented?
I keep forgetting to remind you guys there are concept plans. Obviously, the concept plan is before you.
Yeah.
But I apologize.
Yeah, we got it.
But otherwise,
John started putting the concept plans in after we all met on a work session and discussed. It sure is helpful if we have concept plans in front of us versus we think it's going to look like this, it's going to be like this. We just kind of think, and we got a room full of people wanting to know, what's it going to look like? Am I going to have 140 houses across the street from me or behind me? So So yeah, these help a lot, and they are what they are. They're concepts. It's not the final. Okay, so okay. All right. Public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition could be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Are there questions or comments from the members of the commission?
Was the public, was people allowed to speak for or against it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
There was?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. It just went silent. Nobody would get up.
Nobody
Nobody wanted to get up and talk after Joe Herring got through. Everybody went, yeah, well, we'll just sit right here. Yeah, Joe's got it.
I think the consensus would be they wish other developers would have this type of stuff in mind rather than just cramming them in there as much as they can.
Yeah.
You notice the way he built that concept is landlocked now. There's no way to get in or get out.
I think he left 2 spots on it.
Yeah, it's like a very narrow track. Tractors enter, tractors exit. Pretty much it.
Yeah. Now 4 roads.
Yep, his land. And his partner, I believe is what he said. Thanks to his partner is what he said. Yeah, make that note on record. Any other questions or comments from members of the commission? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion on the request, DEV 23-142, a rezoning request from RR5 to R1, as outlined in the posted agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve case number DEV-23-142 as presented by staff.
I second that.
All right, thank you, sir. I have a motion and a second. Is there a discussion on the motion on the floor? Okay, I'll call roll. Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Alan Stork?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt?
Yes.
Steve Rosenthal?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. The motion is carried by a vote of 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than January the 3rd, 2024, in a meeting. The commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. I believe this is our last item on the agenda for tonight. Leavenworth County Planning Commission will now consider case DEV 23-146, a rezoning request from RR 2.5 to R1, as outlined in the posted agenda. Requires public hearing. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Planning staff report.
Again, this request is for the property located at 000 171st Street, which is the corner of 171st and Parallel. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property from RR 2.5 to R1 43, which is, again, 1 acre zoning. The property in question does have floodplain that runs through the center of the property. As you can see, there is a creek that kind of meanders through the center of the property. Here's the zoning at RR 2.5, and then if you look at the future land use map, this area is also designated for residential 3 units per acre. As mentioned previously, R1 zoning is less dense than 3 units per acre. This property does not have access to public sanitary sewer, so being able to develop at the 3 units per acre density is not feasible at this time. However, R1 is, you can have septic on an R1 zoning district, which I assume is why they're requesting this. They have provided a concept plan as well. There you go. Where they're showing, again, this is just a concept, but essentially 2 roads with acre zoning coming off of those 2 roads. Staff did review this request per the 7 factors. I will say there was a little clerical error. We had some check marks that meandered over to not met. However, if you read the analysis of factor number one. And factor number two, staff have found that those actually do meet the criteria required. Again, future land use map has this identified as 3 units per acre, so overall staff's recommendation is for approval. But if you have any other questions, let us know.
Thank you.
Why in the comp plan do we have designations of 3 per acre in areas that don't have access to sanitary sewer? Because, I mean, then it's an automatic, you can't do that anyway, right? Because they can't have septic on 3 per acre. And if they don't have access to sanitary sewer, that seems like a...
Again, it's a visioning document.
that they'll eventually expand.
It's a visioning document, and it's intended to provide a long-range plan without anticipation of exactly where sanitary sewers go. As we've discussed in the past, those higher densities are typically centered around retail hubs, employment hubs, towns. So in this particular case, they believed higher densities were warranted in this particular area of the watershed without anticipation of a sanitary sewer. They hoped that during that development time period that sanitary sewers would be available from the adjoining communities. However, that hasn't been the case, which is why they're proposing a much less dense subdivision than is what's warranted under the comp plan.
I appreciate that. I was asking more for like a clarification, which you gave perfectly. Another thing that I think a lot of people wonder about, and I know, John, you have good background information into this, is the ability to have private septic on 1 acre and the history of that from a state perspective. I think one question I've heard that would be valid is if there's any long-term studies on densities with that, meaning, yes, on this 1 acre for this house, it's perfectly fine, but what if you have 100 of them? How does that affect the water table or anything like that? Has the county taken that into account?
Well, that is based on soil conditions. So when you give a soil condition, geography, a number of different elements to that, but when you pass a universal minimum criteria, you're estimating that the conditions within your county will support the densities that you're proposing in that sanitary code. That being said, there are other ways to address wastewater in areas that are further away from communities, which I believe we will get into that over the next 12 to 24 months. So can I tell you that every area of Leavenworth County can support 1 acre zoning? Well, no, I can't. But that engineer that has to come in and design that septic system, which, by the way, everyone that's on 1 acre has to be an engineered system, will have to take into account the soil conditions, the topography, and the detailed components of that site specifically.
Thank you.
Upon opening the public comment portion of this hearing, those of you who wish to speak either for or against this item upon recognition, please give your name and address each time you begin to speak. This is necessary since this public hearing is being recorded. The public comment portion of this hearing is now open. Will the applicant please come forward?
Joe Herring, 315 North 5th Street, Herring Surveying, Leavenworth, Kansas. Staff covered this very well. As you can see, this property has a lot of floodplain in it, so there's going to be a lot of open space as opposed to a larger tract that could be developed at a much higher density. They're not higher density, but a lot more lots. So this is just trying to get the best use out of what's available to be developed with some interior roads and using the 1 acre zoning on it. So clients, the owners would have preferred to be here tonight to address you personally, but situations came up and they could not attend. I talked to them right before the meeting, so here to answer any questions.
What are we looking at, Joe? Are we looking at something that's going to be within the next year? It's going to go through the entire process of approval process, John? I mean, is this something that?
Well, Assumption is that, yes, typically when we go through a land use change, that's normally a 12 to, on the outside, an 18-month course, unless it's for estate planning purposes. Now, I can't speak for the developer, Joe can, but I would assume we would be in that 12 to 18-month range.
Is that what we're looking at, Joe?
I would agree
12 to
with that.
18 months, he's looking at wanting to develop this?
Yes, at least, maybe one side versus the other first, and then if market, demands change, then it may delay the other half. But that is completely up to the owner of it, but the intent is to move forward on a portion of this within the next 12 months.
Joe, some of these lots some of the lots that we're looking at right now look like 1 acre, but then there's other lots on here that look much bigger than 1 acre, and I believe it's discussed in the packet. So it's not necessarily, it's to go to 1, but you can always go up to 2.5 if you wanted,
You could go
which is what some of this
larger,
is 2.5.
Right, you can even go larger than that, but
Yeah.
the biggest benefit along with the 1 acre zoning is the ability to have less road frontage and to get those lots fit in. When you're putting in an interior road especially, that's not cheap. So you want to be able to get as many units as possible off the road that you are constructing. So usually the design, that's the request from the clients.
And these lots could be a lot deeper, too. I mean,
Yeah, there's nothing
you couldn't
against-
build on the back half, but you could own the back half.
Yeah, there's nothing against including all the floodplain in lots and selling it, but the developer does not want to do that. He wants to control the floodplain in its majority and keep that for options, just in case Baser ever does come out that way.
There are some planning philosophical issues as well with running platted lines all the way to the center of a floodplain for the reasons that Joe just said. When sanitary sewer comes out there, it's going to be in the lowest geographic location, which theoretically is going to be the
Where the sewers
floodplain.
are gonna have to go.
So if you plat over the top of that, then you have an encumbrance of multiple properties that you're going to have to deal with versus a singular tract and singular owner. So from a planning standpoint, we like to see floodplain contained within a drainage easement for those types of purposes. But again, we're in a land use discussion tonight, not a platting discussion, but that would be the purpose of keeping floodplain in a singular tract.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, appreciate it. We will now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of this request. In favor? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name.
Hi, I'm Teresa Booty, 16788 Parallel Road. I'm the west side property lining up. I'm not against this. I just want to, does Leavenworth County, how do we know what size lot we're going to use for septic? I mean, do we have a minimum size lot for septic?
I should just keep this microphone on. Yes, ma'am. The minimum size is 1 acre. So traditionally, from just a little history lesson here, from 1962 to 1998, the minimum size in Leavenworth County for a septic system was 1 acre. From 1998 to 2021, that became 2.5 acres. In 2021, the BOCC reverted back to a 1 acre minimum size. So you have a mix of both of those types of developed parcels throughout Leavenworth County. So the quick answer is yes, 1 acre is the minimum.
Okay. How does 1 acre, let's say they build even just a 3,500 square foot home on these lots. I don't think these are going to be small homes that are built. So a 3,500 square foot home can have a septic system, or septic tank on a 1 acre lot.
It will have to be an engineered system, but yes.
What do you mean an engineered system?
Means a licensed Kansas engineer will have to design that particular septic system.
Well, since this is county right now,
Right?
would everything has to be approved through the county? I mean,
Right.
Baser's real.
Yes, so the
Shifting
septic
right now.
system would be permitted through the county, and it would be, again, required to be designed by a licensed PE.
I think what you're asking is, yes, there would be a septic tank, and there'd be the septic lines, and they would have to fit within that 1 acre based on the house, the size, the number of bedrooms, the number of occupants, all of that stuff goes into what John's sitting here saying. And that individual that has to plan out that septic tank has to be a licensed.
Kansas
Sure,
engineer.
sure, I agree
Yeah,
with all that.
that's where we're at.
My neighbor adjacent to me, not Miles' property, but they were a 1,500 square foot house, and they doubled in size with their second story, and they didn't add on to their septic. Anyway, my point is, I don't want it to stink like the guy talking about his hog farm, even though I have 20 acres. I mean, I'm not against farmers at all, trust me. But but I don't want everybody's septic tanks stinking up along that west line is my thought process. And I'm just a little bit nervous about a septic tank on 1 acre lot for, let's say, a minimum of a 3,500 square foot house. Because new homes like this, they're not going to be a little house. This is going to be a big house. And I'm not against them building it. They can do what they want, but I don't want it to stink.
Well, all right then. That doesn't fall into the in favor or in opposition. I know, I'm just picking at you. Okay, so right now we're in let me restate. We're hearing from those individuals present wishing to speak in favor of the request. In favor. Okay, now let me ask this one. We'll now hear from those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. I believe that's where I was. I got confused. Okay, so we're on those wishing to speak, those individuals present wishing to speak in opposition of the request. Please come forward, state your name and address.
I don't know if I'm in opposition to it.
Come on up, state your name.
Just following Teresa. My address is 16801 Parallel.
And your name?
My name is Kerry Walters.
Thank you, sir.
And I think what our concern is just how it's going to change things from where it has been. Most of the people that live in that area have lived there for either 50 to 75 years. And so this is kind of a bit of a change for us. We're not really opposed to it, but we're just concerned about how all that's going to play out. And then, kind of like what Teresa was saying, is that the septic systems would have to pass a perk test of some kind, and have to be designed, and then that would kind of determine what size the lot could potentially be, or they can pretty much design anything to fit a 1 acre to an acre. Acre and a half.
Well, the intention behind the design system is to incorporate the design and square footage of the house with the topography and the soil conditions of the lot itself. So that's the reason to defer to an engineered system. There are a multitude of systems that exist out there, and they will use every one of those depending on the conditions on the site.
Okay. And then, because we know that there's water, there's electrical, but as far as natural gas and sewer, there's really nothing out there.
Right, and again, it's outside that initial growth area of the adjoining community, and there is no reasonable length of sanitary sewer to run out to this particular area. Also, the densities that are proposed here are far less than what that future land use plan calls for. And while I can't state intent of any developer or any other human being, I would say that if you're developing for the purposes of profit, you want the maximum density you could get. So if sanitary sewer was available, I think we're going to see a lot more than numbers-wise, lots-wise, than what we see here.
But there could potentially be a sewer line ran down there.
Eventually, it is logical that it would be annexed at some point in time by a community, and when that happens, then yes, as part of their service delivery plan, typically sanitary sewer is the first component of that.
Okay. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
Goes hand in hand with annexation, yeah.
Thank you. That's the whole reason why we're here tonight, is for like you and Teresa and anybody else to come up and ask those questions, whether in favor or opposed. Your adjacent neighbors. That's the reason why we're here tonight, is just to do that. So, Kerry, I appreciate you coming and asking those.
So, before you
and we have questions too.
Yeah. Okay. So, are you in Baser at 168?
We're in Fairmount Township. We're just outside of the Baser city limits.
Okay.
Most of the housing additions that have gone in have become annexed into the city of Baser.
Yeah.
So, are you expecting to be annexed?
Well, that's kind of our concern.
Okay.
But
So you're on septic system then?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Ma'am?
Not necessarily here against or opposed or whatever. My name is Kimberly Watkins. We live at 19800 171st, which is the house on the hill above the 6 that you're there above the floodplain. My concern is you're going to put a road in there. Is it going to interfere in our property? And if so, how much and whatever? We've only been there a year and a half. Our understanding when we moved out there that wasn't a piece of land that was buildable because of the floodplain. And are we still going to be considered to be in the county? Because we fenced off for our dogs, and we were in the process of going to expand and have some chickens and goats and everything else. So now we're concerned as to if we've moved out here prematurely and should have gone somewhere else.
To answer that question, this land use and platting would not affect your status as a county resident. This will also be in the county as well once it's in a developed condition. The road that you're talking about to the north side will be completely built on this developer's property. It will not.
How far from our property will it be? Will it be so far from our property line, or will it be right at our property line?
Well, logically, the road right-of-way will be right at your property line. That's typically how that works, with the frontages of the lots shown on the southern side of that road.
So what you're saying then, that top line there is my property line?
Right. Yeah, the top line of the road is your property line. Okay. And again, this is a conceptual plan, just to reiterate what I've said earlier. Conceptual plan, but logically, it's pretty close to what we're likely going to see.
So it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be so many feet away from my property line?
There is no setback to road right away, as long as it doesn't encroach onto your particular property.
Okay, so what about, we sit on the hill, so everything's going to run down. Are they going to, as far as if we have rain and stuff, everything runs down that direction? I'm just assuming that, those houses down there are going to catch what runs off of our property.
The drainage components and the engineering components will be handled at the next stage, which is the planning stage. Again, the reason to show these conceptual plans is for the benefit of the commission and for the benefit of the audience, so that they can generally see lots and locations and road layouts. This certainly doesn't subdivide property, this action tonight. It simply changes the land use.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good questions, ma'am. We've had those questions in here with water runoff quite a few times in the last couple of months. Those are good questions.
Can I ask one more question? So with the amount of property she has, I don't know how much? 6.5 acres. Now, if that's usually usually annexing comes along with the sewer lines or like a housing addition, when the annex, how much property do you have to be able to keep yourself from being annexed by the city?
The first thing that the first caveat I would throw out here is I can't tell you the annexing plans of any community that's out there. I will tell you this, that the laws concerning annexation have become substantially more stringent over the last 10 to 15 years. I would encourage you to get into the statutes and take a look at those. In my view, I don't think you're in any immediate danger of annexation.
Because I was thinking that, well, if you had horses and chickens, and then you are annexed, then
you're grandfathered in.
You are grandfathered in.
You are pulled in with the zoning that you retained from the county side when you're annexed in, but it doesn't mean that there isn't future zoning that occurred down the road. However, I would say that I cannot speak for the adjoining communities, nor do I know their annexation plans. But without the availability of sanitary sewer service, I think that you don't have a lot of concern there in the immediate future, in my view.
Hey, sir, it's Kerry. Are these, I would encourage that you attend those BASER city council meetings at a minimum. I would incur, some of us on the board here, on the commission here, are part of our city council from our, Lansing and other residents. I would highly encourage that you attend those, or at least submit those questions to the city administrator of Basehor and start pulling that from them, because I know they're having those discussions. I know they're talking about their growth and septics and water lines and sewage. I mean, it's very expensive. It's very expensive on a city. That's the reason why John's not speaking for the city or speaking for the law. There's probably plans, and I guarantee you they have a future city land use plan of what they're doing, and I guarantee you they're talking about what they're going to zone and how they're not going to zone and the way ahead. Yes, sir. I would highly encourage that. Any additional information to be presented?
No, sir.
Thanks, John. Okay, the public comment portion of this public hearing is now closed. Kansas law allows for a petition protesting the decision of the Planning Commission to be filed. That petition must be filed within 14 days after the date of the public hearing. Additional information on the filing of a protest petition can be obtained from the Office of Planning and Zoning. Are there questions, comments, concerns from the members of the commission? All right. Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion on this request, DEV 23-146, a rezoning request from RR 2.5 to R1, as outlined in the posted agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve case DEV 23-146 as stated by the planning staff.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thanks, Wolf. I have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion? Roll call. Jaden Bailey?
Yes.
Alan Stewart?
Yes.
Jeff Spink?
Yes.
Doug Tysted?
Yes.
Robert Owens?
Yes.
Steve Skeet?
Yes.
Wolf Schmidt?
Yes.
Steve Rosenthal?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0. The Board of County Commissioners will consider this item no earlier than January 3rd, 2024. During that meeting, the commission agenda is posted on the Leavenworth County website and is available for public viewing. Earlier tonight, one of you said you had something else you wanted to cover. Is that before I adjourn, or?
Yeah, so as you know, we're nearing the end of 2023 and 2024 is upon us. You also know that per state statute, we have to review our comprehensive plan annually. So we will be beginning that process here shortly. I think the next steps would obviously be to review the plan for our staff, not just our department, but all the other departments that are affected by the plan, but then to start work sessions with you and the BOCC. So we just wanted to make you aware that we would be beginning that process and getting a schedule out to you guys shortly. So anything else?
Thank you, guys.
Well,
Thanks for the warning.
let me make a few comments real quick. Number one, congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you and the baby are doing fine. Secondly, for those of you that are here tonight, the reason that we are up here tonight is just what happened tonight. You may or may not be in favor or against, but you have questions and concerns. And that's the whole reason why we're here, is to open this up, to discuss and try to answer those questions or concerns that you may have. And you all brought value to this county. We come here, we volunteer to do this, and we're excited about trying to help and answer those questions. And obviously, some of them we don't have the answer, and we cannot speak for the other cities. We can't. But what we can do is give you recommendations and food for thought to think about and continue on to carry. You have value concerns, all of you do, as this community continues to grow. And then last thing I want to end with is I hope that each and every one of you have a very, very happy holiday, a safe holiday period, and a very Merry Christmas from all of us up here. And we look forward to re-adjourning after the new year, after the holidays, to come back for some more discussion. And please, if there's other things that you see on your agenda, share with your neighbors, share with your church members, your coworkers, or whoever, and have them come in. Because the more people that we have come in, the more people that come up to this podium and ask us hard questions that we may or may not be thinking about, is what we look forward to discuss. It causes us to get into the books and share with our resident experts here at the table. So, ma'am, I have not addressed you tonight. Do you have anything that you'd like to share with us?
I think when the lawyer doesn't have to speak, it means it's a good meeting.
Well said.
All right. With that, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. This meeting is adjourned. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, guys. Yes, sir.